Good morning. You are listening to First Title National Real Estate Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennis, St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on FirstTitleServices.com and TitleCompany.com. As First Title and Escrow Inc. are the sponsors of the program. They are a leading national title agency that covers approximately 40 states across the country. Additionally, the show will be posted on YouTube.com. Our radio show mission statement: to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for real estate sales across the country. We are going to be talking about real estate, different real estate markets across the country. We've got a lot of topics today. Help us out. We got several real estate leaders calling in today. We've got them coming from South Carolina. We've got them coming from the Miami, Florida area. So it should be exciting. I hope everyone had a great, happy 4th of July and were with their families and friends and celebrated safely, but a nice day for all. And we're back again in beautiful St. Augustine, Florida. The sun is shining. It's just such a beautiful day. Pleased to be broadcasting from here. Talking about the radio station, WFOY 1240 AM has branched out. I know last week they were working on the tower. And this week, the tower is up. It's higher. It's taller. And we are now broadcasting from an FM station besides 1240 AM. We are broadcasting from 102.3 FM. That's 102.3 FM. Pretty exciting. This FM station reaches out more to the south towards Daytona Beach, and more to the north towards Jacksonville, Florida. So just expanding the reach of the First Title National Real Estate Radio Show. And again, we're broadcasting from St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM studios. The two guests we're going to have is Jim Gall. Jim Gall is the CEO of Auction Company of America down in Miami, although they work throughout the country. And we're also going to be finding out about REITs, REITS. And Brad Thomas plans to call in from Spartanburg, South Carolina. He is a guru in the REIT area, and we're looking forward to that. Couple things that found on the websites, and again, I like to go on to DS News a lot. DS News holds the 5-Star Conference each year. That's coming up in September. 4,000 to 5,000 people join for networking and for training, and to hear the newest and greatest from Dallas, Texas. And one of the things that came online 7/2/2013, a couple days ago, says national home, from dsnews.com, national home prices in May increased 12.2 from years ago. That's pretty big. Hold on, we've got a caller. Good morning, you're on the air.
Hey, Doug. Brad Thomas.
Hey, Brad. Well, thank you so much for calling on this Friday. And tell our listeners, if you would, who you are, where you're from, and what do you do, sir?
Absolutely. I am, of course, Brad Thomas, and I work at Bull Realty in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm director of the capital markets program there. I also write for several publications, including Seeking Alpha, The Street, Forbes, Forbes.com, and The Motley Fool. Been writing for a couple years now, and I guess my focus area in terms of my writing is real estate investment trusts, which of course are REITs.
Well, not many people know what a REIT is unless they are way up in the real estate chain. They don't usually work with REITs. Again, there's hundreds and thousands of real estate people across the country. But tell us a little bit more about what a REIT is, and how did you get involved in becoming really a REIT guru, if I can say that?
Well, I've been called worse, and I appreciate that. I assume that's a compliment, Doug.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll start with the second part of the question. I started in real estate right out of college, which has been at least 2 decades ago, and so I started really more in the brokerage side of the business, commercial real estate business, which was kind of a natural gravitation for me to get into development. So back in the early 90s, I had a career in development and primarily focused on shopping centers and a lot of single-tenant properties, and did some industrial and office. So I really got to experience a lot of different asset sectors. And obviously in development, you kind of cover all the bases in terms of the leasing, the acquisitions, permitting, financing, valuations, capital markets. So really got a lot of broad experience in development. And then around 2000, and I guess prior to the recession, I had worked for a number of companies. I was a partner in one business, one development company, and I had also worked with some other companies that were, none of which were public companies. They were, I guess, more specifically probably private REITs. And after going through a recession, I saw that there really wasn't a whole lot of capital. As you know, it just dried up.
Yep.
And so I started to really gravitate. A lot of my clients really were institutional investors or REITs, and I started, for whatever reason, I think more of a hobby, frankly, just started to write about a lot of the REITs in the market, and really trying to help average investors understanding exactly what a REIT is, why should you invest in a REIT.
Mm-hmm.
And so frankly, that hobby has now turned into a career for me. I cover quite a few REITs, and to your previous question, there are around 140 equity REITs today. There are around 30, north of 30 mortgage REITs. I don't cover the mortgage REIT sector. That's a more volatile space.
Okay.
It has a lot more leverage. It's really more of a trading type investment sector. So I primarily cover the equity REITs. And frankly, there's just enough going on today in the market. There seems like every week I'm reporting on a new REIT or even a new sector in the real estate market. So there's certainly a lot to cover just within the equity REIT space. There are around 18 shopping center REITs today, around 7 industrial REITs, around 8 regional mall REITs, around 18 office REITs. There's 6 freestanding REITs, which I called, that's the triple net category in my definition.
Mm-hmm.
There are around 15 apartment REITs, 14 self-storage REITs, 4 data sector REITs, which is again a new category, an interesting space, and a variety of others. So definitely keeps me busy, that's for sure.
Well, you and I hooked up 4 or 5 days ago. I think we connected and we had a chance to talk. It was kind of a day that was in this week a little bit slower because of the holidays or whatever, and had a chance to talk to you offline for, I guess, 30 or 40 minutes. So it was real nice. And I got on your website, and there's a picture of you and Donald Trump. How did that get involved? And that's a pretty nice promotional picture for you.
Well, thank you. And first of all, if you did mention the 4th, I'm actually down in Charleston, South Carolina today, and as soon as we hang up, I'm going to be taking my kids out to the beach. So I do have 5 kids too, and I should have mentioned earlier that in addition to covering all the REITs, I do have 5 children, and that's a pretty big responsibility as well. But back to your point with Mr. Trump, I actually read the book, one of his first books, called The Art of the Deal, back in actually I guess it was the late '80s or early '90s.
Yep.
That was just a fantastic book. I mean, obviously, Mr. Trump's got a great reputation, and a lot of people, everybody knows him. And so about a year or two ago, I'm up in New York a good bit. In addition to writing, I think I mentioned for Seeking Alpha, I also spent a lot of time writing for The Street, which is based in New York. So I get up there a good bit, interviewing a lot of the management teams, of REIT management teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Trump, about over a year ago, and we've had several meetings since. And I really looked to him for advice. He's got a lot of, obviously, a pretty significant, pretty deep knowledge of real estate, commercial real estate, and it's interesting because I spent a lot of time interviewing a lot of the public REIT CEOs, and I just don't have, a lot of contacts in the private side. And I felt like Mr. Trump is obviously one of the best out there. So I really enjoy the time that I spend with him and really covering his business. And I've learned a lot from him. So he certainly has been a mentor to me.
Nice. And we all need mentors for sure. And looks like you're doing really good. While I get your email, it's called the blog update, the Intelligent REIT Investor.
Yes.
Good stuff, and it comes out. Does it come out 3 or 4 times a week, or what is? How often does it come out, Brad? I know you're with your family, and you can't do this all the time. So how do you do that?
Well, actually, I do have a wife who's very supporting, and my children, and that helps me write. I write about an article every day. Okay. Believe it or not, I was looking at I guess my stats for June. And, I think I wrote more. Well, actually, I had more page views, and these are free page views. So you go to Seeking Alpha, you can type my name in, The Street, or Forbes.com, and, so I usually write at least an article a day on one of those sites.
Okay.
That generates around, I think in June, I had over 400,000 page views of content. Now, I have a newsletter that I just launched, which is a monthly newsletter, and you can access that on my website, The Intelligent REIT Investor. So most people are familiar with The Intelligent Investor, which is Ben Graham's famous book, and I do write a lot about his principles and his valuation metrics, and so that's essentially how I crafted the name of my company, called The Intelligent REIT Investor. So you can access that online.
Well, very good, and I got an email today with the top, I think, 10 stories of what's happening in the REIT world and the investor world. And you had a story that was titled "The REIT Glass Half Full or Half Empty." Can you share some of that insight and let our listeners know what you're thinking?
Sure. It's anybody who's invested in not only REITs but any dividend stock over the last 30 days. You've seen the volatility in the markets. And essentially that boils down to a lot of fear out there with regard to rising interest rates. So any stock or any securities that has a possibility of rising interest rate in a rising interest rate environment, that's certainly impacted REITs. So we saw a correction in the REIT markets over the last 30 days or so. And so it's interesting because I try to go out and educate the average investor in terms of the REIT space, and what I see happen over the last 30 days when Bernanke has gone out now twice and talking about potential for quantitative easing pullback. So that has created again this fear, which has created a pullback in the market. I frankly see this as a significant buying opportunity today. REITs were trading at fairly high multiples in the earlier part of this summer. So now what I'm seeing is, my half full perspective, if you will,
yep,
is that it's a good time to buy REITs today. That there are some good prices out there today, and in fact, I would even argue that because we've had a pullback, I think it's been a little bit untimed. And I think there are a lot of opportunities today in terms of buying, buying REITs. Some are still fearful about real estate and the potential for rising interest rates. And even when rates do rise, I think that's going to mean a good thing for REIT investors. And that being that it means that employment is going to be better. It means that consumers are going to be spending money. So I think we'll see that when interest rates rise, that's only going to rise when we see the economy starting to improve. And when the economy improves, again, I think that's going to be good for real estate because it's going to help these facilities that are renting to a lot of the larger corporations today. So I definitely recommend that investors should consider investing in real estate, not only in private as well as public companies. So that was essentially what this article was about.
Well, it was a great article. I scanned it because I was getting ready for the radio show, and I did see it. I wanted you to give us a little tidbit on it. So, if you are an real estate investor out there, and you might be a person that's got a second home, it might be somebody that bought 4 or 5 fixer-uppers and is using that, or you may be a big corporate investor in shopping centers and that kind of thing. How do you find out more about REITs? Where do you go? Are you the man that people should go to? And so if they would read your daily blog updates, and information on Forbes, is that the way to go, or is there another place, an organization that they can perhaps get more information?
Sure, there is, and I think there are a number of places. Starting with, there's an organization called NAREIT, which is National Association of Real Estate Investment Trusts, and that's acronym NAREIT. You can go to that website. As well as there's another site called SNL Financial. It's not a free site, but I do get a lot of my information there.
Okay.
And then again, I think that the opportunity and really the niche that I feel like was needed, there's not an abundance amount of opportunity out there. And really, what I try to promote is giving investors some actionable information, things that they could could buy right there today or sell today. So I try to create really actionable content, for investors. And again, I have a free website, and you can go to, there's a number of good writers for these sites. In addition, I'm not the only writer on Seeking Alpha for REITs. I do happen to lead that category as well as the finance category, but there's some other really good writers out there. Same thing at the street. So. Then,
Brad, I think you are the go-to man. So how do people contact you? How can they get on your website? How can they get your blog? Give us that information, Brad.
Sure. I've got a Twitter handle, which I'm new to Twitter, but I write a lot about sleep well at night and the acronym SWAN Investing. And so my Twitter name is SWAN. SWAN _investor, and again, you can reach me on my website as well, or on any of these other blogs. I mean, especially Seeking Alpha's got a pretty actionable site where there's a lot of information, and I've met a lot of people on Seeking Alpha, so that would be a great site to contact me as well.
Give us your website one more time, if you would.
Sure, absolutely. It's www.theintelligentreit.investor.com.
Well, Brad, thank you so much for taking the time out on your family vacation. You got 5 kids. They want to go to the beach, so get out there. But again, I appreciate you calling in today, and I look forward to doing more interviews with you down the road.
Sounds good, Doug. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
You bet. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. That was Brad Thomas from the Intelligent REIT Investor, talking about REITs, real estate investment trust. Again, I just met the guy over the phone, 4 or 5 days ago, whatever it was, and enjoyed talking with him. And then when I start getting into all the different things that he has done and what he is writing for The Street, Seeking Alpha, Forbes.com, and The Motley Fool, and he's been on Fox Business News, the Commercial Real Estate Show, NPR. So he is the man on the REIT side. So please contact him if you'd like more information. Also, Jim Gall from Auction Company of America. 2 great interviews today. And both of those individuals took time out of their family time to call in on a July 5th, the day after our big holidays. So thank you, gentlemen, Jim and Brad. We'll be back next week, and thank you.